snaps. We're all we got. We're all we need. That's all I heard all day Sunday in Foxborough. I heard a lot of different things yesterday in Buffalo. The blame game, oh my goodness. Bills owner Terry Pegula took questions for the first time in at least 6 years in the wake of his decision to fire head coach Sean McDermott. He may want to rethink the next time he does it. Pegula explained how and why he came to that decision following the loss that featured a controversial interception. We felt you needed to hear all of this. Listen.
My decision to bring in a new coach was based on the results of our game in Denver. I want to take you in the locker room after that game. I looked around. First thing I noticed was our quarterback with his head down, crying. I looked at all the other players. I looked at their faces and our coaches. I walked over to Josh. He didn't even acknowledge I was there. First thing I said to him, I said, "That was a catch." We all know what I'm talking about. He didn't acknowledge me. He just sat there sobbing. He was listless. He had given everything he had to try to win that game. And looking around, so did all the other players on the team. I saw the pain in Josh's face at his presser, and I felt his pain. I know we can do better, and I know we will get better.
Terry, you mentioned that you thought it was a catch and told Josh it was a catch. Why would you fire a coach based on a bad officiating decision?
I did not fire a coach based on a bad officiating decision. If I can take you into that locker room, I felt like we hit the proverbial playoff wall.
So that was the beginning piece of it. There's another part where after he had finished driving the truck over Sean McDermott, he backed up and then ran over Keon Coleman, and we'll get to that in a couple of minutes. But let's just start with that. Quite a bizarre 2 minutes sort of opening soliloquy there, Schefter. You've been covering these things a long time. What was your takeaway from it?
We had not heard from Terry Pegula in a very long time. And obviously, I think the Buffalo Bills felt like with the public money they're taking for their stadium, that it was important for him to come out front and answer some of these questions. But I think sometimes it's best for owners to own and let the people who are used to being in front of the cameras talk to the cameras, because he was well-intentioned, and we love getting owners, and it worked out great with Steve Bisciotti last week in Baltimore. It was quite entertaining. This wasn't quite as entertaining as that, and it became a little bit more harmful. He's talking about all the reasons that he fired Sean McDermott and the pain that Josh Allen was in and how he was listless. Now, I was not in their locker room after any of their 5 recent playoff losses, but I would imagine that when any team loses any playoff game, the players are listless. The players are downtrodden. In this particular situation, the Buffalo Bills went from playing a divisional round playoff game to the crying game to the blame game. They played 3 games in the span of about 4 days here. And this one, I just felt like the owner sometimes best off if he doesn't speak.
I thought the last part of it actually was the part that made sense. I felt we had hit the wall. Like I felt
That's
we just
it. That's all you have to say.
If he had just said that, it was 1 minute and 53. It should have been 3. Like I felt that the coaching staff had taken us as far
as we can go, and we just felt like we needed a spark.
We needed to make a
That's
change. I think that all of the previous stuff really seemed to sort of muddy / cloud up what he was trying to say and actually work against the point, because the follow-up question is the right one. If you're telling us it's a catch, if you're telling us your team got screwed out of that win, and you're telling us that you made the decision based upon the result of the game, which were the first words out of his mouth, then it really does seem contradictory. Go ahead, Dan.
It's bad 5 days for Buffalo because of the way the game goes, and then obviously the presser. I'll say this. Hopefully, Terry Pegula goes into the coaching search with a better plan than he went into this presser with, because there was no plan of how to communicate why he made the move. He blames the loss on the firing of Sean McDermott on losing the game, the Cooks interception, the playoff proverbial wall, and then the interaction in the locker room.
Josh crying.
There's 4 reasons why we're firing the coach. That's no plan of how he wants to communicate. And this is a place, Buffalo's got a really good public perception organizationally. It's a place that everyone knows the fan base is awesome. It's a place that has had a ton of success. And now after yesterday, I just think the public perception is like, what's actually going on in Buffalo? What's actually underneath the hood? And now there's a ton of pressure on this hire and Brandon Beane, because the staff got thrown under the bus. The head coach got thrown under the bus. Joe Brady, who's interviewing for their head coach opening, got thrown under the bus because he's part of the offensive staff that, stumped for a player that he ended up, to your point, Greeny, driving the bus over. And so I don't like how much he shared about the locker room, candidly. I don't like that the owner said, let me bring you into the locker room. And he goes into depth of, because those players then have to hear that and feel now guilt of, if I was a little bit different, would Sean McDermott still be the coach? If Josh doesn't have the emotion that he has, would Sean McDermott still be? I don't like how much he shared about the players in the locker room.
There's such a disconnect between the way he explained his reasoning and reality. To your point about letting me take you into the locker room. Football players are resilient. We know that this is a results-driven business. We've been born and bred in it and trained in it since we've been 7 years old. You either got the first down or you didn't. You made the catch, you didn't. You either won the playoff game or you didn't. Tears, or what you perceive to be people being downtrodden because they didn't get results that they wanted and they didn't feel like they did enough in that moment, has nothing to do with your decision-making on Sean McDermott. To you guys' point, the second part of that statement was all you needed. Like, it's like when you're working your job and you hate meetings that should have been emails. This is a press conference that should have been a press release. And it should have been one sentence. We hit the playoff proverbial wall, and we're going to do something different to try to get a different result. Simple as that.
Josh Allen wasn't crying because he was upset about Sean McDermott. Josh Allen was crying because he felt, and he said it, that he let his team down. Because for the very first time in his career, he was part of the reason they didn't win a playoff game. He didn't play his best game. We all saw it. And he felt terrible about that because if he had played better, they would be in the AFC Championship game right now. In the meantime, that wasn't the part of this that got all of the attention. So the context of this is that Brandon Beane, who was elevated from general manager to now president of all football stuff, was going to be questioned pretty significantly about not having enough receivers help. Part of that, of course, is Keon Coleman was drafted early in the second round a couple of years ago. As you'll hear, that is it. Keon Coleman's name is not even, at least in this moment, mentioned in the question. And the owner decides to jump in, I guess, deciding he's going to shield his new president of football operations from the slings and arrows. This was an extremely uncomfortable moment. Let's watch.
How do you answer the fact that you have not given Josh a good enough wide receiver room thus far?
Yeah, I mean,
Can I interrupt? I'll address the Keon situation. The coaching staff pushed to draft Keon. I'm not saying Brandon wouldn't have drafted him, but he wasn't his next choice. That was Brandon being a team player and taking advice of his coaching staff, who felt strongly about the player. And, he's taken, for some reason, heat over it and not saying a word about it. But I'm here to tell you the true story.
I'm sorry, what? Keon Coleman, parenthetically, still on the team. And the owner, Terry Pegula, later clarified to the Associated Press that when he said the coaching staff, he was not referring to McDermott, but rather another coach whom he declined to name, as though that was the part of this that was problematic. Yes, he did. He called the AP.
Glad he cleaned that up.
To clean up that part of it.
Yeah.
So, I mean, look, I guess I'll ask you because you're a receiver, not that there's any... imagine being Keon Coleman and watching that.
Goodness gracious, man. I mean, if you're Keon, you're waking up to no shortage of 300 texts, probably 10 group chats, thousands of social media notifications that your owner just said that you're not any good and he's not taking responsibility for it. Or your GM has obviously very clearly been having these conversations and saying, hey, this wasn't a pick that I wanted while he's still on your team. Not only is that classless, it's also bad operation that even if you are making the decision to move on from Keon Coleman, eventually, as the owner of the team, you have to know that there is an operation to this. There is a process, and you can't come out and make these kind of statements in a press conference to try to shield your own decision-making and make yourself feel better about it.
It's an immature comment. It's an immature way to handle it. You're the adult in the room. Anybody who's paid attention to your football team knows Keon Coleman hasn't had the start to his career that he should have given his draft slot, or I'm sure he's intended. Also, you haven't fallen short because of Keon Coleman. You've fallen short because your defense gives up 31 a game in the playoffs. You miss a kick here. You miss a play there. Josh misses throws there. So to kind of like take that one player and feel like you're pinning the shortcomings in the playoffs on him is an immature way to go about it.
He's not the adult in the room. He's the owner of the team. The owner of the team. And if we go back to when Keon Coleman initially was drafted, people loved the energy that he brought that team.
Yes.
It was full of life, full of humor. Sure. He's got commercials. I see him on commercials now, and he's a lot less accomplished than some other players. But to me, it's unbelievable that he did this to this young player, and this is something that will always follow Keon Coleman. No matter what he does the rest of his career, we will think of this, and he had nothing to do with it.
I was actually struck. The question didn't even name Keon Coleman. I said, what do you think of the criticism you don't have enough receivers? And the owner says, hold on, I'll take that one. I want to talk to you about the decision to draft Keon Coleman and why it wasn't this guy's fault.
Yeah.
It was, he had decided that his purpose in this day was to justify the decision he made with Brandon Beane, and in order, which I guess is fine, but in order to do so, he threw a bunch of people under the bus, and Keon Coleman, unfortunately, was just on the wrong side of that.
And nobody comes out better for it. Nobody.
No, it's terrible. It remains, I think, a very attractive coaching job for one reason and one reason only, because they have as good a quarterback as there is.